Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Adi Achint. I have with me one of my favorite China watchers, Dr. Geeta Kochhar. Someone you guys must refer to and watch all the shows that I've done on the channel on China. Madam का जो outlook है China के बारे में is very realistic. And let me say this, कोई दिमाग में घुस के जो बात करता है लोगों के बारे में, that is something that you need to appreciate and look at. So thank you so much, ma'am. Namaskar and welcome to the show. Always glad to have you on the platform.
Thank you, Adi. Thank you for this kind introduction. Always happy to join you and listen to your videos. It's one of the most interesting and really authentic channel I love to listen to. And keep doing the great work.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, let's open with something. Xi Jinping का what is his outlook? क्या सोचता है वो भारत के बारे में? You know, from when the standoff started, जो लद्दाख का स्टैंड ऑफ था उस टाइम पे तो ऑब्वियसली उसका ओपिनियन इतना अच्छा नहीं होगा. ही वोंट बी ओ भारत, इंडिया बिग कंट्री एंड ऑल दैट. He obviously didn't think that we were that, capable. After that, do you think there is a certain change? इसके outlook के अंदर कुछ change आया है in the way that he's looking at Bharat today?
Mm. I mean, one thing is very clear to understand Xi Jinping's, mind. वो decode करना बहुत आसान काम किसी के लिए भी नहीं. And anyway, Chinese are very, you know, less, outspoken. They will not tell what is there in their heart. I have said somewhere in earlier videos as well. कि वो दिल में क्या है, बाहर क्या है, बहुत मुश्किल होता है. I mean, you have to be really a Chinese mind to understand what is Chinese mind thinking. But
Mhm.
having said that, I do think, there is a definite change in how things have evolved over the years. I won't say Xi Jinping came with the notion कि भैया इंडिया से लड़ाई करना है. That thought कि we don't like Indians, I don't like Modi, and I'm going to have war with them on Ladakh or Galwan. I don't think he started with that. But as he has started to project himself in China as a very nationalist leader who wants to regain all his, ancient to ancient territories which they claim as their own, and then tries to, you know, uh, give the sense to the people of China that he is the leader who is going to reunify China and make it a global, great nation, a Chinese nation with a great renaissance, which existed, I don't know in which century, but according to them, in Tang Dynasty, Qin Dynasty, all this, was China the great, civilization. It is a great civilization, no doubt about it, but a great civilization in terms of the territorial, unity and integrity, I really doubt because there have been periods of war among China. So, but Xi Jinping has come with that notion, trying to project that China is a very grand country with a huge territory. It is the center of the world and is going to become a center of the world. So, all that China dream which is giving. So he has gradually moved from being a very simple leader to this notion. And when he started doing that, then the issues of borders, frontiers, all
Mm.
this also comes into picture, and which is where I think India came. So initially, if you see, when we had this Wuhan summit, we had this Mamulipura, Xi Jinping was trying to build relations with Modi, and that's personal relations as well as the government to government relations. So there were, engagements in which China wanted to have good cordial relation, build a neighborly this thing. But the moment this whole dream of Xi Jinping comes in clash with dream of Modi, I mean, Xi Jinping wants make in China the great thing, and made in China is everywhere, and Modi ji wants ki make in India should be everywhere. So these two dreams clash. There is a confrontation out there. But at the same time, all this also percolated to what our frontiers are. We all know in China, they came out with the land border law, defining their territories, and constantly now he's emphasizing on territorial integrity, sovereignty issues. So for Xi Jinping to continue his power and to have the legitimacy of being the CCP leader within China also requires that he proves to the world the people of China as well as to the world uh, that this is one country. He has unified Taiwan with the mainland. Already Macau and Hong Kong is back, and the other territories where certain issues are existing, whether it is India or even Bhutan or everywhere, that needs to be resolved. And so the issue came up. And now, when in Galwan the thing happened, you know, I won't say it was really pre-decided by either of the sides that we have to engage in a war. But once this happened, and this is not the first time. See, Galwan is not the first incident after Xi Jinping came to power.
Hmm.
You see, when Xi Jinping was visiting, Gujarat and having very cordial relations with Modi in Gujarat, trying to tour, and Modi ji was trying to show him the development that is happening, and then inviting investment in Gujarat. The PLA forces were having intrusions on the border, right? So this is not the first incident, but of course, on the scale of the casualties, this is first in decades, right? And so this issue became very crucial in the PLA, the Chinese military, as well as in the government establishment of China. So Xi Jinping definitely is got affected. Initially, the responses in China was, अरे वो लड़के लोगों में थोड़ा सा हाथापाई हो गया, young boys brawl हो गया, कुछ नहीं है, because casualties reports hadn't come out by then. And all the Chinese scholars were saying, अरे ये सब तो चलता रहता है, ये लोग मारपीट करते ही रहते हैं, थोड़ा बहुत इधर उधर चलता रहता है. And I said, ये थोड़ा बहुत नहीं चल रहा है, it is a serious thing, you know. नहीं नहीं नहीं, ऐसा कुछ नहीं हुआ. But once they saw that the casualties are not just on the Indian side, the casualties are also on the Chinese side, and there are huge casualties, even if they have not disclosed the number. Then Xi Jinping and the whole hierarchy became a little serious in China, and then they started to relook at it. And that time, the stand from the Chinese side was very arrogant and very aggressive. That posture was totally anti-India. But now I see that that has shifted. Okay, we see that during the big summit also. Even if people say that the posture of Xi Jinping sitting on a sofa and Modi ji standing, these fake narratives which are being floated, that is not the situation. Okay, that is not the real picture of how China is treating India. Of course, we know how the narratives are created when we try
Hmm.
to selectively show images. But in reality, I think during the big summit, in SU summit, BRICS summit, and now, of course, the G20 summit, we can see that the Chinese posture has tilted towards a little humble attitude to renegotiate things on ground. Of course, the dialogues have been going on. सबको मालूम है कि हम लोग border talks कर रहे हैं, core commanders की meeting हो रही है, and there have been many rounds of it. लेकिन जब आई थिंक जब इवन इफ आई एम नॉट सिटिंग देयर, मुझे ये मालूम है कि जब कोर कमांडर्स मीटिंग होती होगी एंड द चाइनीज पीएलए वो बी आर्ग्यूइंग कि ये हमारी टेरिटरी है, और उनको वो लॉजिक दिया जाता होगा कि ये टेरिटरी कैसे आपकी है और कैसे नहीं है, द चाइनीज वुड हैव नो रिस्पॉन्स टू इट. यू सी, इफ यू आर गोइंग टू स्टार्ट विद एन वेरी एंशिएंट थिंग, तो आप बहुत एंशिएंट में चले जाइए. अगर मॉडर्न में जाना तो आप मॉडर्न में जाइए. यू कैन नॉट टॉक अबाउट कि एंशिएंट भी हमारा था, मॉडर्न में भी हमारा था, कब था. As I was looking into the Ladakh issue as well, the Galwan issue. When was it? So those issues become very pertinent. And frontiers, China had ambiguity of their western frontiers. They know it very well, right? So अब जब बहुत बातें होने के बाद, मिलिट्री टॉक्स होने के बाद, एंड पॉलिटिकल इन्वॉल्वमेंट भी है उसमें, उन टॉक्स में, तो ये सामने आ रहा है कि आप इंडिया के साथ लड़के ये बोल के कि नहीं जी ये हमारी जमीन है, बस कैसे भी हमारी है, और झूठे मूठे मैप्स बना के यू
Hmm.
कैन जैसे अभी करे हैं, आई मीन मैप्स बना दिए तो ये सारा हमारा ऐसे ऐसे चलेगा. So some tone of the Chinese have come down. Even if when the map came out, there was whole hue and cry. The Chinese have taken Indian territories, and of course that 11 dash line and all of that. But the Chinese have mellowed down. They understand that they don't want a war with India, and they're not in a position to engage with a war with India. Indians also are not very keen to have war with China. Very obviously, Jaishankar ji ने clearly बोला. I mean, हमारा नेबर है, हमें उसके साथ लड़ाई नहीं करना, पावर भी है इकोनॉमिक, हम लड़ाई के तरफ नहीं झुक रहे. हमारा मुद्दा वो नहीं है कि हम लड़के किसी चीज को हासिल करें. So
Correct.
dialogue is the right approach, and
Hmm.
both are now moving. तो उस सेंस में मेरे ख्याल से शी जिनपिंग में एक चेंज आया है, स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम not very, I would say, not very clear about what he wants from the Indian border, to having a very aggressive posture, to now, trying to mediate things, trying to little settle down. ये एक चेंज आप समझ सकते हैं.
मैम ये बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग चीज बताई है आपने, बिकॉज लॉट ऑफ पीपल वोंट एक्सेप्ट दिस कि नहीं नहीं ये देखो उनका अग्रेशन ऐसे ही है, तो उसके लिए काउंटर आर्गुमेंट है कि क्या है यार, वो बोरिया बिस्तर बांध के ही वोंट जस्ट गो बैक होम, नहीं मैं जा रहा हूँ चलो सब कुछ ठीक है, हिंदी चीनी भाई भाई, इट विल नॉट हैपन. सो इवन इफ थोड़ा डिसंगेजमेंट थोड़ा ये होगा, इट विल टेक टाइम. बट हैविंग सेड दैट, डू यू थिंक अगर कुछ होता भी है, डू यू थिंक दैट द ट्रस्ट बिल्डिंग विल बी, दैट टू मी इज अ बिग बिग big problem. How big a problem do you see it to be, ma'am?
See, one thing we need to understand that prior to this Galwan incident, okay, not that we never had, border
Issues before.
incursions, issues on the border or fights or, may not be casualties, but yes, we were constantly having. Yet, there was a kind of understanding between the two sides of the border, the armies on the two sides of the border, right? It was not as bad as India Pakistan. It was not, right? Even now, if I see, अगर आप कुछ वीडियोस अभी देखें जो बहुत सर्कुलेट हुए हैं, Chinese are playing the Punjabi songs, the military is playing the Punjabi songs and dancing, they are floated on. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि आर्मीज लड़ना ही चाहती हैं. But having said that, the truth is also that Chinese army or the PLA always had a very aggressive as well as very, I would say, a proud attitude, and tried to bully the Indian soldiers. Right? This attitude was always there. I think now there is a wake up call for the Chinese PLA. The PLA now realizes कि आप ये जो तानाशाही राज जमाने की कोशिश कर रहे थे बॉर्डर्स पे, वो नहीं होगा. सो व्हेन वी से कि चाइनीज तो अभी भी बॉर्डर विलेजेस में इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलप कर रहे हैं, विलेजेस डेवलप कर रहे हैं, वो लैंड ग्रैबिंग कर रहे हैं, इतने किलोमीटर उन्होंने ले लिया एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट स्टफ. आई थिंक वी नीड टू ऑल्सो रियलाइज वन फैक्ट दैट earlier Chinese side never allowed Indian side to develop anything near the border. Okay, and the Indian side was accepting this attitude of the Chinese
Yeah.
and being submissive. कि ठीक है आप बोल रहे हैं तो मैं नहीं करूंगा, आप मुझसे नाराज मत होइए, काइंड्स दैट अप्रोच कि भाई आपको मैं ठीक है आपने बोल दिया मैं कुछ नहीं करूंगा, मैं अपना नहीं बढ़ा रहा, आप लोग जो मर्जी करते रहिए, काइंड ऑफ थिंग. नाउ दे हैव एक्सेप्टेड द फैक्ट दैट इंडिया वांट्स टू डेवलप. It also has its own territorial rights. It can develop in its own territories, and Chinese should not get annoyed by what India is doing in its own territory.
They
And
do
you
cry,
cannot
but
dictate.
हाँ रोते हैं, बट
नहीं,
इतना नहीं रोते आजकल.
देखिए रोने की जहां तक बात है वो तो हर कंट्री को अपने नेशनल इंटरेस्ट की जब बात आती है तो हर आदमी ये सोचती है कि कल को ये हमारे पास लड़ाई ना करने आ जाए, ये इतना
वो
इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलप करके, दीज आर स्ट्रेटेजिक
जन्म
इश्यूज.
सिद्ध अधिकार है उसका रोने का, तो वो ठीक है,
हाँ तो
दैट्स फाइन.
हाँ स्ट्रेटेजिक इश्यूज हैं वो तो सबके रहेंगे. आई मीन हमें भी लगता है, आप जब रेलवे लाते हैं तो हम भी परेशान हो रहे हैं, भैया
जी जी.
रेलवे लाके आप क्या करने वाले हैं,
या
दिल्ली में तो नहीं आने वाले. आई मीन दिस आर strategic issues you need to understand about. But once you are developing on your side, when you are having railway networks, you are having road constructions on your side of the border, and you do not allow us to develop, मतलब ये गुंडागर्दी भी तो नहीं चलेगी ना, काइंड ऑफ थिंग. So they also said, we also want to do, and the Chinese now have accepted this fact very reluctantly that yes, we cannot dictate or stop India from their development. वो थोड़ा बहुत नॉइज बनाते हैं, वो तो एक स्पोक्स पर्सन का जैसे रूटीन काम है कि चिल्लाना है, आपने ये क्यों किया वो क्यों किया, काइंड ऑफ थिंग. पीएम मोदी यहाँ क्यों जा रहे हैं, राजनाथ जी वहां क्यों जा रहे हैं, काइंड ऑफ थिंग. दे विल कीप ऑन सेइंग, but those are just for the spokespersons to keep on saying.
So
But
ma'am,
on the
let's.
ground, they have realized that yes, you need to accept the realities. India needs to develop. It has the means, and you cannot stop.
No question, I agree with you, but we also see the other side जहाँ पर ये हिमालयन मीटिंग करते हैं, and they very close to Arunachal border. Very far inside. Very close to anything, वो बोलते हैं ना, कहीं पे भी वो टिबेट का बॉर्डर क्रॉस भी होता है ना, तो it becomes अरुणाचल बॉर्डर उसके बाद सीधा. तो
Hmm.
I mean it's far away from there, but fair enough. The whole effort of doing the Himalayan this thing, and
Hmm.
उसके अंदर the funniest thing is Pakistan is there. तो ये मेरे को थोड़ा आप बताइए, what are they trying to do? This is their third summit. Wongi tried to say something. I don't know if it came out the way he उसका जितना plan था उसके हिसाब से आया कि नहीं आया. I like your opinion on that, man.
So you are talking about this Trans-Himalayan,
Yeah.
Forum for International
Forum.
Cooperation, right? Which recently happened in Tibet area.
Yes, man.
My first reaction was, इसे कहते हैं अपने पैरों पे खुद कुल्हाड़ी मारना. I mean, uh, it may be a little, thoda sa, I'm saying a little more, but
नहीं
this is
नहीं.
the fact. I mean,
Yeah.
fact is, you are doing in Tibet, okay, in an area where there is always this huge fight by the Tibetans about autonomy and all of that kind of issues. We all know about Tibet issue, and then you were talking about territorial integrity, and on top of it, you are talking about environmental concerns, which have become a major issue in Tibet's development, in the Nepal China railway line, and you're talking about environmental issues in a place sitting next to the border of Arunachal Pradesh, जहाँ पे आपका territorial issue चल ही रहा है. I mean, so what are you trying to prove? आप क्या मतलब बताने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं? या तो आप चाह रहे हैं कि आपकी जितनी टेरिटरीज में जो भी, चाहे वो इनर मंगोलिया है, टिबेट है, शिंजियांग है, they also start talking about territorial integrity and sovereignty issues. So this is one issue that I felt very funny, reading it. But anyway, I mean, whatever their intention would be, the fact that they are doing this is, I think it's a culmination of what they did earlier. They had China, Pakistan, Nepal, Afghanistan kind of a quadrilateral meet last to last year, and in that they wanted the connectivity projects to be promoted, especially the
Hmm.
BRI project. उस BRI के चलते दे वांटेड कि ये पूरा कनेक्शन अगर हमारा हो जाएगा from Xinjiang to Nepal to Pakistan, Afghanistan, and to Central Asia, uh, and maybe even to Europe. So that BRI network is the signature thing of Xi Jinping, a dream
Hmm.
again,
Hmm.
and they want to do that, right? Now, as I said, there have been various issues which have propped up in the BRI project. Okay, in China, Nepal, as I said, environmental issue, the railway line which is going to cut from two conservative parks in Nepal is a major issue. How you are going to manage with that, and it is also the seismic, plane. There are earthquakes are quite possible, So how are you going to destroy the ecology of that? आप greenery की बात तो करेंगे, लेकिन fact of the matter is this all will be destroyed. So you are trying to build up China Nepal railway, and under the BRI project. Okay. Second thing is, we all know what is happening to the BRI project, the CPEC line of China
Hmm.
Pakistan. In Baluchistan, people are against. The debt crisis has come up. So within China also, I have seen there is a whole pressure on the government of China talking about the economic cost of this BRI.
Hmm.
Okay. And this debate has culminated to something what we now see as Global Development Initiative, Global Security Initiative, and Global Civilization Initiative. Why these three have come up is because now they want to tone down this BRI as a name, that is a Belt and Road Initiative as a name, and reintroduce certain issues based to mediate that whole narrative कि ये बेल्ट एंड रोड डेट ट्रैप नहीं है, ये बेल्ट एंड रोड जो है ये कंट्रीज की इकोलॉजी को खराब नहीं करेगी, ये बेल्ट एंड रोड जो है कंजर्वेशन पार्क्स जो है उनको डिस्ट्रॉय नहीं करेगी. It would be very beneficial to everyone's development. There are security issues, we will be taking care of those security issues, और ये civilizational connect बनाए.
जी.
So it is something I say see in China, when if you see in a little past, if you go, when China came up with something called as peaceful rise, okay, hopping chuechi करके एक उनका term आया था, and the moment that peaceful rise was floated around, all the Western countries and other countries
Picked it
came
up.
up in the arms, yeah, picked it up and said कि rise का क्या मतलब हुआ? I mean, peaceful rise, you are a dragon and you are trying to burn every country, and there is a whole China threat coming to all the small countries. So, the moment that narratives came out from all the other countries and started criticizing and evaluating peaceful rise kya hai in various ways, what the Chinese quietly did was उस peaceful rise को प्यार से change करके peaceful development बना
Hmm.
दिया. Okay, and then peaceful rise किसी you know आप एक रिसर्च पेपर या कोई भी आप डॉक्यूमेंट उनका पढ़ते थे वहां पे से पीसफुल राइज का पूरा टर्म गायब हो गया because Chang Pi-chien, who had given that term, he himself started to rethink about भैया मैंने peaceful rise क्यों बोल दिया. Irving Chwechi नहीं है. Chwechi is a very very negative term in China.
Yeah.
Okay? So they started using a very positive term. आइडिया सेम था, थिंकिंग प्रोसेस सेम था, करना वही था, लेकिन उस टर्म को आपने पीसफुल डेवलपमेंट बना दिया. ओके, सो दिस इज द
Hmm.
चाइनीज स्ट्रेटेजी ऑफ टोनिंग डाउन द ह्यू एंड क्राई विच कम्स अराउंड द वर्ल्ड. अब बेल्ट एंड रोड का इतना ह्यू एंड क्राई हो गया, सो ग्रेजुअली दे वांट टू शिफ्ट फ्रॉम. अब बेल्ट एंड रोड इनिशिएटिव एज अ टर्म वो हटा नहीं सकते बिकॉज उसको उन्होंने अपने चार्टर में डाल दिया, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में इन्वॉल्व हो गया. अब उसको हटा नहीं सकते तो उसको क्या करेंगे, उसको टोन डाउन करने के लिए they will start using the terms like GDI, GSI, GCI, and all of that stuff. And it is there that they want to stress to these neighboring countries, Nepal, Pakistan, and Afghanistan, and other countries also. There are almost 10, 11 countries which have joined this Trans-Himalayan thing, that we are having a network of connectivity projects which are going to be conducive for the development of infrastructure and highways in your country. Okay, please promote that. And at the same time, we are going to have rethink about, because it's a Silk Road notion which has come out, right? So we are thinking about creating these civilizational linkages which we had. So हम लोगों के connect जो है वो ancient time से अब तक के हैं, and we are rebuilding. If you see very recently in Nepal also, when they talked about Pokhara mein, that this all comes into BRI, the whole of Nepali media, stood up in arms ki we never had anything on the BRI, and the foreign ministry spokesperson of Nepal came and gave this explanation that we have not started any project under BRI.
Correct.
Okay, and Chinese were really embarrassed on that. So now this time the Chinese have called all of these people, पाकिस्तान में भी जो झगड़े हो रहे हैं उनको भी समझाने के लिए, नेपाल को भी बताने के लिए कि भाई हम लोग जो कर रहे हैं, हम सारा एक प्रोजेक्ट जो कर रहे हैं इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, ये आपके बेनिफिट के लिए भी है. इट इज नॉट
Hmm.
अबाउट डेट ट्रैप, इट इज नॉट अबाउट डिस्ट्रॉइंग योर कंट्री और टेकिंग ओवर योर कंट्री. हम आपको सिक्योरिटी अम्ब्रेला देंगे, हम आपको इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर देंगे, आपके साथ सिविलाइजेशनल कनेक्ट करेंगे, एंड दिस इज अ विन विन फॉर एवरीवन. हालांकि now they've stopped using again this win-win term, but whatever, it's a win-win. Or something like the Chinese come out and say that this is what we call it as, growth for all of the humanity and development for everyone, shared future, shared future ek hoga hamara, all that notions. So this is under that they have called up. And I do see that is multilateral engagement mein they have picked up specific countries like Pakistan, Nepal, you know, Afghanistan, Myanmar,
Hmm.
Sri Lanka, in fact, with which China wants to even create military alliances. One of the major challenge which China now has, it does not have military alliances in any
Yeah.
neighborhood
Yeah.
or in a far eastern country. So China really wants to build up military alliances, जहाँ पे militarily they would be getting support by all these countries. So this is
Hmm.
also one objective on which is not clearly stated in this Trans-Himalayan thing, but it will come out that we don't have any border problems with these countries, okay, and they are our allies. Because अगर उनको यूएस के साथ फाइनली कभी लड़ाई करना है ताइवान पे या कुछ पंगा करना है, तो उनको ये दिखाना है कि हमारे साथ कौन कौन खड़ा है नेबरहुड.
जी.
तो नेबर में तो अभी आज की डेट के हिसाब से देखा जाए तो इवन द चाइनीज नाउ टॉक विद इन चाइना कि शी जिनपिंग ने सबसे ही पंगा ले लिया.
Hmm.
हर कंट्री लड़ रही है, हर कंट्री से लड़ाई है हमारी. देयर इज नॉट इवन अ सिंगल कंट्री विच रियली सपोर्ट्स चाइना. तो
Yeah.
चाइना थ्रेट जो नोशन था वो तो रियल हो गया एक तरीके से. अब इट कुड बी वेरियस रीजंस, आई एम नॉट saying that Xi Jinping has done that. There are many multiple factors and various reasons and dimensions to it. But fact of the matter is they do not have an ally, और जो थे भी जैसे पाकिस्तान था भी एक क्लोज ally, they are having second thoughts about it. You see, China-Pakistan relationship is not as smooth as it was. वो
Yeah,
all weather friendship अभी नहीं चल रहा है. So there are issues, and I think China wants to rope in these countries and build up that, you know, that kind of uh, engagement with all these countries. Just may they would finally be military alliance. They tried to woo India also. I think in the first and second forum they tried to invite India. I don't know this time whether they invited or not, but at least earlier they had invited India also to be a part of it. But India did not join that. It outrightly refused because India also sees ki what are you planning to do? I mean, you are creating a network of military alliance in my neighborhood and trying to put pressure on me, which is not workable.
ma'am, how about the divorce with Pakistan, if I may? Because there is a news that came out that the Pakistanis asked for an extension of certain projects कि भैया और थोड़ा कुछ कर लेते हैं, ये प्रोजेक्ट को भी सीपीईसी में डाल दो, वो प्रोजेक्ट को भी सीपीईसी में डाल दो. They've been telling the Chinese एक कोई रेलवे लाइन बनानी है, एक कुछ रेलवे लाइन को अपग्रेड करना है.
Hmm.
This time it has not been हाँ हाँ करेंगे, हाँ हाँ करेंगे. It's been no, sorry, we're not doing it. Get out. How do you see that as a move? Is this a reaction for जो पाकिस्तानियों ने यूक्रेनियंस को वेपन्स बेचे हैं कि is this a natural progression of the Chinese Pakistani relationship?
Uh, I would say, first of all, we need to see the premise of China and Pakistan relation. Was it based on, you know, very healthy, cordial relations that they established, and so we are friends? No. I mean, there is a term in Chinese we call as churo phangyo. मतलब जहां अपना इंटरेस्ट हुआ वहां खाने पीने के लिए एक साथ बैठ गए और बाद में लड़ाई. You know, it's the premise of China-Pakistan relation. Why I say so is you cannot have in international relations you cannot have close friendly relations unless and until there is an equality or parity with the state. China
Okay,
and Pakistan do not have equality and parity. Okay,
correct.
so either you will have, I mean, you will try to control the other party because they are small, right, and dictate things. जब तक वो सुनेंगे तो आपका अच्छा रिलेशन चलेगा, नहीं सुनेंगे तो लड़ाई. See, if you have to be friends, I mean, even generally, हम लोगों में भी यही होता है कि आप किसी दोस्ती करेंगे तो अपने बराबर वाले के हिसाब से ही दोस्ती चल सकती है. आप सोचेंगे कि मेंटली मेरे साथ एक जैसा है या काम में एक जैसा है, मतलब कुछ तरीके की बराबरी होगी तब तो. चाइना और पाकिस्तान की क्या बराबरी? Neither physically, China is a big country, Pakistan is a small country. Economically, there was no, parity. Military, there was never parity. So, what is the parity China ever had with Pakistan to claim that they have all weather friendship? So, I always felt that Pakistan was one trying to accept whatever the Chinese are saying. So, it is something like जैसे हम पहले करा करते थे कि वेसल स्टेट होता था, तो वेसल स्टेट में यू गिव द गिफ्ट्स एंड यू एक्सेप्ट. सो पाकिस्तान ने चाइना को गिफ्ट दिए, अब टेरिटरीज दी, राइट. तो गिफ्ट दिए तो चाइना खुश है आपके साथ, बहुत अच्छा है. इट्स दैट काइंड ऑफ एन unequal relationship. I would see that. Okay. The second thing is that China was thinking that it needs some partners in the neighborhood, which Pakistan was willingly becoming for China in order to balance India. Okay. Because होता है ना कि इंडिया पाकिस्तान का जब लड़ाई हो रहा है, 2 बिलियन की लड़ाई में बंदर फायदा ले रहा होता है, तो समथिंग लाइक दैट. सो चाइना थॉट दैट देयर इज अ वेरी ग्रेट अपॉर्चुनिटी आउट हियर where it can try to build up relations with a country which is, small enough, which can be controlled, which is already willing to, give us gifts and accept our control and domination. So they build that relation. The second thing is that, sorry, the third thing is that, China always thought that with Pakistan, they can build up certain relations which would be conducive for their long-term, game plan, whether it is
Mm.
in Central Asia, whether it is in US and Europe and all of that. And Pakistan did, help China in many ways. So these are the kinds of relations in which China and Pakistan evolved. Okay. Now, where did the issue start coming? And another fourth factor was the Xinjiang people, the Muslim people. China had to deal within its own territories, right?
Mm. Mm.
The whole. thought that East Turkestan movement, terrorists were trained in the, cross across the border, China had to manage relations with the Muslim world. And at that point of time, the cross-border terrorism, which was very high, which is the country with which China would have tried to negotiate things? Definitely Pakistan. The easiest way to deal with it. And so Pakistan never raised an issue about Xinjiang, as is visible to everyone, right? So, I mean, under this background, these relationships were going on, and all the Pakistanis were also claiming the Chinese knew that Pakistanis are not doing legal things in their country. There were many things that were being wrong and everything. But yes, they promoted because Pakistanis were sweet tooth to the Chinese. They were trying to do whatever the Chinese said. It's like we accept your dictatorship. आप आप
Mm.
किंग हो तो मैं आपका गुलाम हूँ, that kind of relationship. But now when the CPEC thing dipped, the Pakistani economy is in doldrums. There are issues in Balochistan, which are very, very serious issues.
Mm.
Issues about the CPEC line has come up. Uh, the repayment issues have come up, and Pakistanis have started to ask the Chinese that you help us, you give us some rebates. The Chinese did that initially, right? For the CPEC thing, the debt loan they accepted. They said, okay, let us give them some money, and okay, maybe things will be toned down. But when the Baluchis, incident, Baluch people started killing Chinese citizens in CPEC area, in POK area, then the Chinese citizens as well as the government has become very, very, careful. And the Chinese proposed their army people to be stationed in Pakistan, which the Pakistanis did not agree.
MSS and all, Hanji.
Yes, MSS and even PLA. Okay.
Mm.
And the Pakistanis did not agree on that. I think that is where the first issue started to come up. You know, this is where the Pakistanis started to feel कि हम तो इसे मिलिट्री अलायंस बनाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, तो मिलिट्री अलायंस बनाएंगे तो हमारी मिलिट्री तो जाके वहां पे खड़ी होगी ही ना, उनकी तो पावर नहीं है अपने आप कुछ करने की. तो अब पाकिस्तान हमें वो करने नहीं दे रहा. नो सेंसिबल कंट्री शुड डू दैट, बट the Pakistanis at least had a minimum sense of this, and they did not allow the Chinese to come and get stationed there.
Mm.
And the Chinese citizens have refused to go and do any business or any work in these areas where Baluchis have really, openly threatened them. So there is this kind of differences which have cropped up. And the other angle within China is the economists have started to question how much are you going to continue dragging with these payment issues. हमारी अपनी इकोनॉमी में प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है भाई, और आप दान देके उसको ड्रैग किए जा रहे हो, कितना दान दोगे? There is a limit to it.
Yeah, yeah.
We want our, and Chinese are, I mean, as I said earlier also, Chinese are proper pure business people. हम बिजनेस कर रहे हैं, आपको ठीक है दिया, आपको इंटरेस्ट पे दे दिया, बट आप उसके बाद उसको वापस करोगे कि नहीं करोगे? ओके, आपका 1 साल एक्सटेंशन दे दिया, 2 साल एक्सटेंशन दे दिया, फाइनली. So these things have really created this, rift between China Pakistan thing. I wouldn't say that there is a rift in real sense. There are differences of opinion, I would say.
Mm. Mm.
And so saying that पूरा divorce हो गया, अभी नहीं हुआ. China will still try, because as I said, they are doing these, forums and trying to build up relations with these neighboring countries because they have a larger plan of military
Yeah,
alliances.
yeah.
So we will have to see whether Pakistan will agree to join that alliance by closing its eyes to everything, or will there be pressure within Pakistan and by other countries that it will not be able to join.
That's, I mean, that's very interesting. Ma'am, lastly, I wanted to ask you, Xi Jinping inside, and yesterday, recently I've done a show where I discussed कि भाई जो Xi Jinping का अपना position है चाइना के अंदर, थोड़ा जो weakness उसमें दिखती है, there is a large role of his policy towards Bharat.
Mm.
Somewhere down the line, जो एक pushback मिला उसको, I think for the first time, apart from America, अमेरिका के भी उस टाइम पे pushback बड़ा कम ही था. Apart from America, एक serious jolt that he got, जो एक झटका मिला इसको, that was
Mm.
only from Bharat. I mean, he didn't get it from anywhere else.
Mm.
Militarily, he got a pushback. Economically, he
Mm.
got a pushback. Although हमारे जो naysayers में मानते नहीं हैं, but we were the first, one of the first countries to actually economically sanction China,
Right.
जो आज तक वेस्ट में कोई रेप्लिकेट नहीं कर पाया है उन चीज़ों को। तो शी जिनपिंग नोज कि यार ये ठीक है, ये बोलते कम है करते ज़्यादा हैं। सो व्हाट इज हिज आउटलुक गोना बी, ये आगे जाके क्या करेंगे, कंसिडरिंग मोदी साहब की इनको ज़रूरत पड़ने वाली है गोइंग फॉरवर्ड इन द ब्रिक्स। आपको ब्रिक्स
Mm,
को अगर कुछ बनाना है, ही नीड्स मोदी इन एसईओ, एंड ही आल्सो नीड्स मोदी इन द G20 इफ ही वांट्स टू बी वैलिड इन दैट
mm,
एरिया। तो इसको
mm.
कहीं ना कहीं तो डिस्काउंट देने पड़ेंगे, क्या देना पड़ेगा, व्हाट डू यू थिंक इज गोना हैपन? वो शी जिनपिंग हिमसेल्फ कैसे देखते हैं अ, आज मोदी एंड भारत को साथ में?
See, one of the things we need to understand is no matter whether we had Galwan issue or not, the general masses in China have started to like Modi. There is a complete change in attitude towards how they see India. Okay, and even the Bollywood songs and everything have are greatly influencing the Chinese
Yeah,
masses.
yeah.
So the whole narrative among the masses is a very pro attitude towards India. Okay,
Hmm.
now at the same time, there are business people whose interests are being harmed by the tensions that we have, and India has taken very serious stands on many issues. So there is a sense of unhappiness among the Chinese businesses, but they also know that this sense of unhappiness is not caused by what India is doing for its own development and interest. It is caused by the kind of political tensions created between China and India on, on the border. And so the masses also, I mean, if I am an individual in India, how would I see? अगर मुझे प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है, आम जनता हूं मैं, हमें प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है, तो हम क्या कहें? अरे भैया तुम्हारा ये प्रॉब्लम है, बॉर्डर को सॉल्व करो, खत्म करो। इसके लिए मैं क्यों सफर करूं भाई? मेरी जिंदगी क्यों ना कर रहे हो? मेरे को तो बिजनेस करना है, अपना बिजनेस कर रहे हो, और हमारा अच्छा खासा बिजनेस चल रहा था, आप लोगों के ये बेकार के झगड़ों में हम फंस गए।
फंस गए हैं। हम्म।
Literally that is the
जी जी
sense
जी
I
जी,
think.
यू राइट।
I think that is coming from the Chinese business.
हम्म।
Indian businessmen also feel so. Some of them whose business is not working with China now, they also feel so. But this pressure on the Chinese from the masses is something which is percolating in their system. You know, it is going into their government bodies. इंडिया में स्टिल इट्स अ डेमोक्रेसी, राइट? अगर
हम्म।
लोग परेशान होते हैं तो डेमोक्रेसी में आपकी रिजीम चेंज हो जाएगी, आपको पता चल गया कि ये गवर्नमेंट ने काम ठीक से नहीं किया, या इस लीडर ने क्या किया या क्या नहीं किया। देर आर वेज वी कैन express our dissatisfaction for the government, but China में तो ऐसा नहीं है।
जी।
Xi Jinping came on the third term, even if the people were not happy with what happened during the Corona times. There was great unhappiness about the whole Corona time, right? But Xi Jinping has got the third term. So China में
हम्म।
उस साइड से तो चलता नहीं, so public cannot. But having said that, there is a kind of parallel system where all the volunteers of the party go down to the grassroots and collect the effect that is happening on the masses and how the masses are reacting, and that goes back to the government. Okay, उस चीज से शी जिनपिंग को एक प्रेशर जरूर है। Okay, and as I said, on the military side also, PLA is not interested in fighting a war with India. Okay, they have not fought a war with any country for decades now. They don't even really know. I mean, and the army people in India keep on saying, and probably they are right. They don't have the actual war experience. फील्ड में एक्सपीरियंस, हम थियरी, हम भी बोलते हैं कि थियरी में हम जो बात करते हैं, ये खेतों में ऐसे उगाना वैसे उगाना, जब प्रैक्टिकली करो तो अलग बात होती है। जिसने खेत में काम किया उस किसान को थियरी से ज्यादा नॉलेज होती है। सेम थिंग applies in the army also, right? You have not fought the war on ground. You have not, we have engaged with Pakistan for so many years. We have fought for the UN peacekeeping forces, and our forces are well equipped and trained to really know how it will work on the ground. So experience matters. अब पाकिस्तान में तो सॉरी चाइना में ऐसा है नहीं है। So Chinese PLA also is not very interested in engaging on war, whether it is in with India or whether it was
यूएस।
US for Taiwan, taking back Taiwan. And so I think there is this pressure on Xi Jinping to rethink his attitude and approach towards India. Okay, he may have thought कि Modi ji kya hai? Matlab, he liked Modi. I'm very sure that there was no
Yeah,
tension
yeah.
when we had the Wuhan summit. There were very cordial relations. I don't think there was dissatisfaction of why Modi had come to power or things like that. But there were issues after Galwan thing, and we know when they start propagating apne, games mein they are highlighting the persons who have been infected by on the border, right? So उससे हम देखें तो Xi Jinping now has started to rethink about how he needs to manage his relations with India, and all the policy circles in China are also writing on we do not need to have you see enemies on our
Antagonization.
neighbor. Yeah,
Mm.
we don't want enemies on the neighbors, right? आप manage कीजिए. And I do not think that a problem on the border is such a huge problem that it cannot be resolved. You see, I do see that the military on both sides are taking great pains to really find out solutions as amicably as possible and find out what can work. Okay. Now, of course, it's not a very easy task because borders are so very complex issues. The division, the delimitations, and then the demarcations and everything is a very, very complex procedure, right? We need geographers, we need, cartographers, we need army people, political people, everyone to really sit down and make a plan
Not
to
that
how
simple.
we need to
Mm.
proceed, right? हम लोग तो यहाँ बैठे बोल सकते हैं अरे क्या है झगड़ा है दोनों बैठ के निपटा लो ऐसे नहीं चलता है एक्चुअली on ground it doesn't work because we are going to define international territories, right? So international borders are going to be a very complex procedure.
Ji.
But I think because that pressure has also come up on Xi Jinping at one point of time, and when especially they are coming with law and border and all of these things that they're coming up, and they're talking about white papers on shared future. They cannot have a shared future without India. They cannot have Asian century in this Asian region without India being a part of it. And that they realized when they signed the RCEP. What is RCEP without India being a part of it,
BRI
right?
India.
Yeah, BRI did not work because India is not there. You cannot. I mean, you are negotiating with Nepal. What are you going to do with the railway when it comes to Nepal if it doesn't connect India? It's of no use. They will not be able to run it properly. They will not yield profit out of it. So they're not going to have baggages for their economy, especially considering when the economy now is on lot of pressure. Economically, they're not doing very well. And China cannot afford to stop everything, all economic and trade relations with India at this point of time. They need a huge potential
Most
market. India is a very
most important.
huge potential market, a growing market. And so they will need to engage with India at any point of time. So I think, even if it would not be very easy to really pull the Chinese on the table and get through these things, we have been successful in certain parts. Certain areas we have already, at least temporarily, we have made buffer zones. So gradually, we will be able to at least start with maybe buffer zone, if not
Which
anything
we
else.
have. Mm.
हाँ, then de-escalation तो करना ही पड़ेगा और gradually, the whole process of delimitation and everything will continue. So this will happen. Just that the time probably would be a little more than expected. May not be 20 immediately in December, maybe in January, February, it will take processes to continue. But I do see that maybe before the next year begins, you know uh, there would be some output of what the talks have been going on,
Wow.
you know so I don't say that the whole delimitation will happen. Delimitation is a very,
No, no,
as I
no.
said, it's
But
a
some
complex and
movement. Yeah,
long process.
that's a big
Yes.
thing. Mm.
Yes, that would happen, which is what I think the Chinese also trying to do. The Indian side
We
definitely
are
is,
also trying to do. Yes, ma'am.
very keen on doing that. We don't want, and once that is done, once we are able to resolve a border dispute, and this is my constant narrative that I've been speaking at almost every forums, is if you want to build trust, if you want to think that we can have trust, you have to resolve the root problem of the issue, and the root problem is the border. So once that is done, then you can start thinking about how we have new kind of confidence building measures, how we start, engaging with country, people to people exchanges बढ़ने चाहिए. अभी तो वो भी नहीं है. I mean, there are no flights to go to China. Direct flights नहीं है. Visas are not approved. So then gradually we will start opening up. Gradually there would be people to people exchanges, there would be government to government exchanges and scholarly exchanges. And then naturally the trust can be built up. See, trust does not come up कि आज हमने सब सॉल्व कर दिया तो कल हम लोगों का दोस्ती हो गया. You see, दोस्ती धीरे धीरे बढ़ेगा. आप जितना आप एंगेज करेंगे, जितना उसका आउटपुट होगा, उससे आपको पता चलेगा आपका कितना ट्रस्ट है, कितना नहीं. And because China also sees India as not just as a rising power, a potential market, as well as a capable, country with huge population. China also knows that for its business expansion, it would need this country. It is not about China-US relation. It's not as US and China have, real existential problems. You know, uh, so for their approach, and I've talked to many of these Chinese, you know, uh, in the military and the business and all of that. Their approach is also clearly stating that China-India relations are not equal to China-US relations, right? So we are not enemies per se. We are on enemies on border because we have this border issue, we have military. But the moment that is resolved, we may be able to build up better relations. But it all depends upon if and but of how negotiations on the border continue, because that is the premise our government has taken as a stand to normalize the relationship. So when we want to move the normal relation, and there is a interest from the Chinese side that they want to normalize the relation, uh, due to whatever reason, maybe economic reason, maybe other interests that they have. Uh,
Hmm.
if if they have that interest, I think things will move better. That's a positive note I'm really hoping for. Yeah.
Ma'am, as I said, this is an insight that one can't get from anywhere else except from yourself. Thank you so much for
Thank
joining. And I'm gonna say this online itself. I'm looking forward for the Ladakh talk. In the
you. Yes.
morning मेरे दिमाग में वो घूम रहा है कि वो तो करना ही करना है. ये आज का हो ना हो ना हो, वो करना है मेरे को. That needs to be
Sure,
done.
sure,
But
sure,
thank you
sure.
so much, ma'am. It's such a pleasure talking to you, and I'm looking
It's my
forward for
pleasure.
the next time. Thank you.
Okay.
Jai Hind.
Thank you. Namaste. Jai Hind. Jai Hind to your ways.